Welcome back to the FPL video and podcast. This will be the best wildcard team for Game Week 5, and this will be affordable to the vast majority of people watching, but I'll also discuss some possible upgrades you can make if you've got funds in the bank left over, and for those that can't afford certain players, I'll also discuss some possible downgrades so you can afford this 50-man squad. Now, for the Game Week 6 edition of the best wildcard team, there could be several changes as we have some fixture swings for the likes of Arsenal and Brentford, so keep your eyes peeled for future editions and we can track how the best wildcard team will evolve week on week and try to strike a balance between the game week right in front of you and the long term. Smash the like button and subscribe if you're new. If you enjoy my content, I promise to get this to over 200 likes and to keep on pushing towards 35 subscribers. We're very close towards 28k. We made some big progress in the last couple of days, gaining over 1,000 subscribers. So thank you very much for your support. Check all the other links in the description below for my Patreon, the Championships Discord server, FPL League and Draft Town, even Spotify for those that want to listen to it in audio format. Without further ado, let's jump straight into it. At 4.5 million, there are two goalkeepers that stand out to me. One of them is Flecken and the other is Verbruggen, and if you want to go for this rotating goalkeeper pairing for the next couple of months, I think their fixtures really work well together in tandem, but with Flecken, I'd probably edge towards him over Verbruggen simply because of the fixtures, but I think Brighton are better defensively. It's just a shame that their fixtures turn for the worse from Game Week 6 onwards. But let me know down in the comment section below which 4.5 million goalkeeper you prefer. Even Muric in Game Week 4 did very well with an 11-pointer, and for me, the best goalkeeper in the game is David Raya. If you can find a way to afford him, that's perfect, and he's probably the best way of covering the Gunners defensively. He got 2 bonus points in the North London derby victory over Tottenham, and he's been sensational in the new Premier League season. But the backup goalkeeper will be a very simple one. He only costs 4 million and he plays for the same club, and that is Valdemarsson, but you can go for Verbruggen and Flecken if you've got the funds and want to rotate your goalkeepers and play it by the fixtures. And if you have enough money to spend in this position, David Raya is certainly worth 5.5 million. Arsenal have one of the toughest weeks of the season. They just had the Spurs away game, then it's Atalanta on the Thursday, and then Man City. All of the games away from home, and buying an Arsenal defender or even Raya in goal isn't ideal for Game Week 5 specifically, but you can bench the Brazilian centre-back who scored the winner in the North London derby, and he's got the most goals of any centre-back in the last couple of years in Europe's top 5 divisions. So that's what he has over the likes of Saliba and other premium assets. The goal potential is the highest of any centre-back in this division, and I also think he can get the odd bonus points and a lot of clean sheets in the process, as Arsenal have one of the best defences in Europe, if not the very best right now. So I think Gabriel is worth going for, and you could even double up on the Gunners defensively with Raya and one of Gabriel or Saliba in your 50-man squad. Next up is a defender you don't own for the clean sheets. You really have him for the attacking potential, and I'm referring to Pedro Porro, who has been underwhelming in the last couple of weeks, but I still think he's worth the 5.5 million price tag, and the fixtures are turning for Spurs in a positive sense. Brentford at home is classed as an easy fixture on the fixture difficulty rating on the FPL website, but I think Brentford can still cause problems, even with Wissa missing the next couple of months due to injury, and I wouldn't own any other Spurs defender. Romero does have some goal potential, to be fair. He's the other one that might enter your thinking, but Border for the bonus points and assists is definitely worth the extra millions over all other Spurs defenders, including Mickey van der Ven, who is a budget option at 4.5. Now I'm going to go for some budget defenders myself, and one of them has been in my team since Game Week 1. I think he's still worth it, but he has gone up to 4.7 million, so if you haven't owned him before, it might be a bit tricky to get to him. But I'm going for Robinson, who has some tougher games coming up very soon, but you can downgrade him to Joachim Andersen, who started his first game for Fulham in the Premier League since his return, because he was on loan there a couple of years ago. And I think Robinson is worth the extra 0.4 million if you can help it. But Anderson was a very good option last season, getting a lot of bonus points and clean sheets for Crystal Palace. Let's see if he can translate that to Fulham, who are on the cusp of a clean sheet in Game Week 4, but a 95th minute equaliser by Danny Ings ruined the hopes of those with Robinson like myself, and it was pretty much just a sign of the type of game week we had in Game Week 4. Now, the other two defenders might surprise you, but one of them is Mykolenko, and Everton have been terrible this season, especially from a defensive perspective. They also crashed out of the Carabao Cup in a penalty shootout defeat to Southampton, so it's been a torrid season for them, and Mykolenko is currently ill, so let's keep an eye out for this situation. If he is unavailable, we would have to look elsewhere, And in terms of Everton defenders, I definitely wouldn't advocate spending almost 5 million on a Branthwaite or Tarkowski. But speaking of which, Branthwaite is expected to return in Game Week 5. I believe this will be a massive boost for the Toffees, and they'll start keeping some clean sheets, especially with those plum fixtures up until Game Week 14 in early December. I'm also going for a 4 million option in Greaves, who has been my highlighted option at this price tag for the last couple of weeks now, and he kept a clean sheet in Game Week 4, and Ipswich have some good fixtures after pretty much a nightmare start against Liverpool and Manchester City, two of the toughest opponents you could ask for. But amongst 4 million defenders, you can consider Mosquera. Southampton options are also maybe in the back of your mind, but I honestly wouldn't go anywhere near the Saints defensively. Maybe with Leicester City, you've got Wout Faes at 4.1 and O'Colly, but I think Greaves is the best of a relatively bad bunch. Mohamed Salah was absolutely awful against Nottingham Forest, but then again, only Gravenberch could really come away with any glory from that match. He was also amazing in the Champions League win over AC Milan, winning the Player of the Match award, while Salah was a bit unlucky there. He hit the woodwork twice, and he's the best captaincy option for Game Week 5 in my opinion. But it is an awkward kind of time with Salah because you could easily have him on a wild card for Game Weeks 5 and 6, but then Liverpool's fixtures turn shortly afterwards, and I think it will be a very tough decision whether to part with Salah on the wild card or using free transfers, or do you just go to a Saka and Palmer in this position, free up some funds and upgrade other positions in the process? Maybe Fleck into David Raya will be one particular upgrade you can make in Game Week 6. So that's up to you to decide in terms of finding that balance between the game week right in front of you and the long term. But I think Salah will still deliver very well when the fixtures turn for the worse against Crystal Palace away and Chelsea at home in Game Week 7 and 8. But I think if you don't go for Salah, definitely go for a Saka or Palmer instead. I wouldn't really advocate Heung-min Son, who might do very well in certain matches, but I think he's fairly inconsistent and his level is dropping compared to previous years. Now, the second midfielder I'm going for is a budget option in Emil Smith-Rowe, who got 7 points in Game Week 4, and I think whenever he gets a goal or assist, he's very likely to get bonus points. That's the thing I like about him the most. You could certainly argue that Semenyo has been more consistent this season, but Smith-Rowe is 0.1 million more expensive, has better fixtures, and the bonus points potential is definitely higher than Semenyo's with the upcoming games for both clubs. Now, the third midfielder is almost a lock-in for Game Week 6, but I think the injury to Wissa could change the complexion of that Brentford side, and I'd still go for Mbeumo. I think he'll get even more big chances now, but it also might be to the detriment not having a Wissa alongside him. I think that's a great combination, and they've been sensational so far this season, particularly Wissa, and I honestly wouldn't have minded going for Mbeumo and Wissa, or even a triple up in Brentford with a Flecken in goal, Collins in the backline if you wish, but unfortunately that Wissa injury could change everything. So I think my advice for those without the wild card going into Game Week 5 is to assess Mbeumo and see how he performs against Tottenham Hotspur, and if the signs are still good, I'd buy him in Game Week 6, and definitely on the wild card I'd advocate for him, but I'm also a bit more sceptical about him now, and I think Wissa's injury could cause some problems here. He is the first choice penalty taker, Bryan Mbeumo, since the departure of Ivan Toney. He can get bonus points, and as a midfielder, the extra point for a clean sheet and obviously scoring goals is very important. And at that price tag, 7.1 million, I don't see anybody else really competing with him. Maybe Eze, who got a goal and an assist in the Carabao Cup, but he's not doing it enough in the Premier League in this new campaign. You've also got a few others that I've discussed in my previous podcast, and one of them is Jarrod Bowen. If you've got the funds, I think definitely consider him because he is one of the most consistent wingers in the Premier League. But now let's complete this midfield. We've got a few slots left, and McNeil is a decent budget midfielder to consider. And I know he's been poor this season so far in terms of FPL returns, but I'm going to go for Eze once again. Am I being too stubborn? Perhaps I am, but I do like this sort of structure where you have some mid-price midfielders, and I think even more will rise to the surface. Leon Bailey could be another one once he returns from his injury. And with Morgan Rogers, he has been point studging in FPL and UCL Fantasy. I don't want to go near that if possible. For those of Rogers, I would recommend holding, but the fact he played 88 minutes in the Champions League against Young Boys is a major concern, and it wouldn't surprise me if he was benched against Wolves at home in Game Week 5. But with Eze, whenever he gets goals or assists, he is so likely to get bonus points, and that combination with Nketiah as well as Jean-Philippe Mateta could be one of the best trios in the Premier League. Now, unfortunately, we have to make a sacrifice, either a budget midfielder or forward, and in this case I've chosen to go for a 4.5 million enabler, and I'm going for Harry Winks because he plays every single game. He might get 1 or 2 goals this season, but he's really there to sit third on your bench on most occasions. Maybe there will be the odd time where you put him second on the bench if needed, but he's not someone you want to have anywhere near the starting 11. And if you've got a terrible situation with multiple injuries or suspensions, he can be subbed on for a 2 or 3 pointer. So that's why I've gone for him. But in terms of budget, you would ideally want to have a stronger option in the midfield. And I wouldn't really mind going for a 5th midfielder who you can start week in, week out instead of Harry Winks. And if you do go for that sort of structure, bear in mind it could lead to some benching headaches with your 3 forwards, who I'll now get onto. And I've got some budget options in this position as well, but they're certainly much more potent and consistent than Harry Winks. The most popular budget forward going into Game Week 5 is Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who's had a great start to the season with 2 goals and 1 assist. I highlighted him in the Transtips podcast as well, and he also has fantastic fixtures up until Game Week 14. Now, you do have other options like Joao Pedro. If he's back for Game Week 5, I still like him a lot, despite Brighton's fixtures not looking so good in the long term. Danny Welbeck is also decent. Chris Wood has had a good start to the season. And not to mention Jamie Vardy, who is a Premier League legend. So you're a sport for choice in this position, even with Rodrigo Muniz being a major disappointment so far this season. But I would go for Dominic Calvert-Lewin over all of the others because of those fixtures up until December. But you just have to hope that Calvert-Lewin can stay fit. And apart from that, I'd be very confident he can get plenty of returns. He's also on penalties for the Toffees. Now, if you wanted to go for a Jamie Vardy as well, you could then use those extra funds to upgrade Harry Winks and have a very strong 15-man squad. But at the moment, I'm going for Ollie Watkins, who was subbed off around 60 minutes against Young Boys. He got an assist in that game, as well as a goal disallowed. And Duran came on, scored a goal, that was offside. And you could see rotation between those two with the Premier League and Champions League schedule, not to mention the Carabao Cup, which is coming into play very soon for those Champions League clubs as well. But Ollie Watkins is still worth 9 million. He's a great replacement for Isak if he's indeed injured still for Game Week 5 with that eye injury. But I would go for Ollie Watkins with those upcoming fixtures until Game Week 9. But he's not absolutely essential. And from Game Week 6 onwards, I'd rather have Kai Havertz, to be quite honest with you, as Arsenal face Leicester and Southampton at home back-to-back, as well as Bournemouth away in Game Week 8. Now, the third and final forward, it's going to be no surprise whatsoever. Erling Haaland seems essential at this point of the season, but it's a very small sample size, and trust me, you can still perform well without the Norwegian. But if I had to pick between him or Salah, I'd go for Erling Haaland based on the form, and we'll see how he does tonight against Inter Milan, as this podcast is recorded on Wednesday morning. So that's the 15-man squad for the wildcard in Game Week 5. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. If this was a week later, I would definitely be going for 2 or 3 Arsenal players and possibly even a triple up in Brentford. But as I mentioned earlier, you could go for Watkins downgraded to a Jamie Vardy, to name one particular example, and that would give you at least 3 million or thereabouts anyway in terms of extra funds, and you'd have 7.7 to spend on upgrading Harry Winks. So that's something else you could consider, and then go for Jarrod Bowen. So I'd really like this sort of structure as well. But you will have benching headaches, not just in Game Week 5, but pretty much until you next wildcard or make multiple changes to your squad. Using the website FPL.team, you can visualize future game weeks, and I've gone for Flecken in goal. You've got no other option really. Valdimarsson will come in if Flecken ever gets an injury. The back three will be Mikalenko, Borro and Greaves. Not the best defensive line, I do admit, for Game Week 5, but I think long term with Robinson and Gabriel rotating, that could still work very well. And I'd also encourage you to consider a Lewis Dunk, Mazraoui and Collins if you don't go for Flecken in goal. The midfield comprises of Mbumo, Salah, Smith-Rowe and Eze, with Calvert-Lewin, Watkins and Haaland up front. The bench is also quite strong with Valdimarsson, Robinson, Gabriel and Harry Winks. But let me know down in the comment section below, do you prefer the option of downgrading Watkins to a Vardy or Joao Pedro and then using those extra funds to upgrade Harry Winks to Jarrod Bowen or another mid-price midfielder? Maybe you want to go from Salah to Saka from the get-go, and I think Havertz is better than Watkins from Game Week 6 onwards. So like I said, I will be uploading best wildcard teams on a weekly basis. I've been doing this on this channel for several years now, not just in FPL, but also for UCL Fantasy. And it also helps you to track the best fixtures and how things change in terms of the best wildcard team on a weekly basis. Thank you very much for watching this video and listening to this podcast. If you enjoyed it or found it useful, then be sure to smash the like button and subscribe for new. I promise to get this to over 200 likes and to keep on pushing towards 35 subscribers and beyond. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM, and check all the other links in the description below for my Patreon and the championships for early access to my videos, amongst many other perks, the Discord server, FPL League, Draft Town, as well as Spotify. Leaving a 5-star review on my podcast goes a long way to support my channel. You just have to use your mobile phones or tablets, so thank you very much to those that have done so already. I wish you all the best of luck for Game Week 5 and the rest of the season, and I'll see you next time.